Again, thank you to all who are here. Welcome to State Financial Training for CTCs. We are going to be talking about the basics of WASAC funding and programs, and we're also going to be talking about some CTC link specific information. And so I'm really pleased to have Kelly Forsberg here. I'll have her introduce herself real quick before I start moving on.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Forsberg. I'm the CTC Link Financial Aid Trainer here at the State Board of Community and Technical Colleges. Been on since May of 2018 and have about 18 years in financial aid. Really happy to see you all. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks, Kelly. And I'm Carly Curley. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Assistant Director for Need-Based Programs. You've probably seen my face all through this webinar series. So again, welcome. I'm pleased to have been with WASAC for a little over 2 years and get to work with a variety of you through lots of questions and different interactions and collaborations that we have together. So really happy to be here this morning. A little bit about housekeeping for Zoom. We're going to have the Q&A feature to ask any questions. Please feel free to put them in there. We will be monitoring. We have some planned breaks within the session, and we'll make sure to address your questions in those planned breaks as well as at the end. So feel free to continue to put in questions. That's the functionality we'll use. I've already seen some reactions, so feel free to tell us how you're feeling. If you like something, feel free to use those reactions. We love it. And just a little fun part of the session that we have together. So what specifically are we going to be covering today? We're going to do an overview of WASAC need-based and workforce programs. We're going to talk a little bit about repayment, as you saw. We're going to talk about SAP, WASAC portal, and Seesaw. And then we're going to go to SBCTC, CTC link processes for state programs, help and resources available to you. And then we'll do some Q&A also. So we love a Q&A. So please, like I said, you're encouraged to put in any questions that you have as we go throughout this session. First, just for us to get an idea of who's in the room with us today, can you let us know how long you've been in financial aid? So we're kind of looking to see who's new, who's going to be new to this, who's been in there here for a while but just getting a refresher. But yeah, just scan the QR code real quick and let us know where you're coming from and how long you've been doing this job. Ooh, 3+ years. All right, we're doing it. Oh, that's great. Thanks for letting us know. Yeah. Okay. That's great, everyone. Thank you so much for those that have participated. It's wonderful for us to kind of get an idea of who we're talking to, how familiar you might be with programs, but we won't make any assumptions because this is going to be some basics about state financial aid, and we look forward to kind of refreshing or even getting more information to you for the first time. So it looks like we have a mix of 3+ year pros, and then we also have people that have been in the profession for under 1 year. So welcome. Glad you're here. So we'll go ahead and start out with the biggest program that we have, which is WA Grant. And I'll talk a little bit about why I'm calling it WA Grant and what these different acronyms, WCG, WGA, WCGC, what these mean and what they are. So first of all, just to toot our own horn here, WA Grant provides need-based financial aid to income-eligible resident students pursuing education beyond high school. And so it's a huge program. And the thing that we love most about WA Grant is it is an entitlement. And this is something that changed several years ago. But before, we had an allocated amount of money that was available to students. And now every student that is eligible receives this funding. So just like the federal Pell Grant. And so it's really, really exciting that students get to receive the grant as long as they're eligible. And we love that for all of our different students, apprentices, and that are pursuing education, post-secondary education. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about WA Grant. WA Grant is like an umbrella. So we like to say, if you attended our WA Grant umbrella session, you probably understood a little bit more about how this works. So raw grant is a general term for these different types of programs that fall underneath it. It's all the same funding. And Washington College Grant, which you're probably most familiar with, is a program that falls under the WA Grant umbrella. So Washington College Grant is for students that are, well, we'll talk more about program requirements, but it's for students pursuing post-secondary education at one of our participating institutions. And they are eligible through completing a variety of different things. So the FAFSA, WASFA, or otherwise qualifying under a program called Washington College Grant Connect. So Washington College Grant Connect is not a different set of funding. What it is it's an income eligibility for students. So students that qualify for Washington College Grant Connect automatically qualify for maximum college grant award each year. And they're not required to complete a financial aid application, although we highly recommend and encourage them to complete that so that they don't leave financial aid on the table. And then we also have the WA grant for apprenticeship. And as it sounds, this particular funding is for apprentices, and we have approved apprenticeship programs. And to learn more about that, there's going to be a session this afternoon that you might want to sign up for, and especially as we move into doing some pilot programs in our CTCs specifically. So what are the requirements for Washington College Grant? You can see a list of them here. Biggest thing is, they have to demonstrate financial needs. So they either do that through their financial aid application or being grant or Washington College Grant Connect eligible. They have to be a resident of the Washington state. They have to have earned a high school diploma over the equivalent, and so on. You can see here. Also, a big thing that we get questions on is, can they receive it if they've already received a bachelor's degree? And that is a no. So they can't have already received a bachelor's degree or higher. So how is the income, what is the income eligibility and how is that determined? So through law, we use something called the median family income. And each year, this is specific to an academic year, what that median family income is. And so what you see here is the 2025-26 MFI chart. And you'll see that it's listed by family size and then also what we call MFI percentages. And those percentages correlate to an award amount for the student. And so kind of what you can see here is that a student can receive the maximum college grant, which is in the 60% MFI range, if they have a family size of 1 and they earn under 41,000, or say a family size of 4 and earn under 78,500. So that's kind of an example of what that looks like. But you can see over on the other end, they can receive a prorated amount of Washington College Grant for up to $68,000 as a family size of 1. So this is what we use and what you're going to use at institutions to be able to determine eligibility for Washington College Grant. So that was just a quick overview. If you have any questions about WA Grant, Washington College Grant, Washington College Grant Connect, feel free to let us know in the chat. We're happy to talk about it. And also would encourage you to review the WA Grant umbrella session because there's a lot more information available there. We should have some recordings online here in the next week or so. So if you're looking for that, they will be available for you on the FAA resources page. All right, moving into College Bound. So you may have noticed we are calling it College Bound, not College Bound Scholarship. And the reason for this is that our College Access and Initiatives team noticed that it was confusing to students because they were looking for a scholarship and they didn't always see that depending on the student's eligibility. And so they found it is much more clear to students to just call it College Bound, although you will still see us refer to it as CBS in the portal, or how we refer to it, when we're writing shorthand, I guess. So something to be aware of. What we like to talk about in terms of College Bound is the College Bound commitment. So College Bound is an early commitment of state financial aid that works with Washington College Grant to help pay for education after high school. So essentially, a student that's College Bound eligible will have a certain amount of eligibility they can receive, and that is comprised of both Washington College Grant and College Bound. And so that's something important to note because that can be confusing for students. They're thinking it's a different kind of funding. And I'm sure you all have run into those questions from time to time about, wait, how come I don't have this much in college bound? Or I thought I was giving all my tuition in college bound. And so that's an important thing to note, is that it is comprised of Washington College Grant, could be Washington College Grant and Passport. We'll talk about that here in a moment. So the amount of monies that students received with College Bound is based on average tuition at public college rates, some fees, and a small amount for books. So that's determined, likewise with median family income. This amount is determined each year, and like I said, we refer to this as the College Bound commitment. So what happens to get a student enrolled in College Bound? So it's a little bit different than WA Grant, where a student just applies, they have eligibility, and they get it. So College Bound is a little bit of a different process. So they actually get signed up for College Bound in middle school. So that's something to know about. There is auto enrollment though. We love this. So students who are in public school eligible for free and reduced price lunch. Sometimes you'll see it referred to as FERPL, free and reduced price lunch, in seventh, eighth, or ninth grade, they're automatically enrolled into the program. Also, students who are in state foster care, dependent of the state between seventh and high school, will get auto enrolled into College Bound as well. So students who are not auto enrolled, such as homeschooled students, need to complete an actual CBS application prior to ninth grade. So that's something important to note, just in terms of process. And they can always contact our College Access and Initiatives team by using the College Bound email indicated here. Once in college, a student needs to have a couple things. They have to be a resident, so you'll see very similar guidelines for each state program, have graduated from Washington High School or earned a high school equivalency. So this is hot off the press for 2025-26. The high school equivalency was approved before a student had to actually have a high school diploma to be able to participate and receive College Bound. We are still working on this. So this is a work in progress, and we will be sending out more information to schools once we have the process outlined in the checker available to you. But that's just something to note, that they can have earned a high school equivalency and be eligible for College Bound beginning this next academic year. So they do have to complete a FAFSA or WASFA to receive College Bound. So Washington College Grant Connect students do not automatically qualify for CBS like they would for WA Grant. So that's something important to know. They have to enroll no later than the fall term 1 year after high school graduation. So that's also important. Be within a 6-year eligibility timeframe. So we've kind of defined this more in our program manual. And also this is something that is newly defined as of the 2025-26 year. So likewise, we're working on this, and we'll have more information available to you. It will be in the CBS eligibility checker. So don't worry, that information will be available to you. You won't have to guess if they're in their 6-year time frame. But the actual process and implementation is still happening right now. They have to have a qualifying income, so they have to be within 65% MFI. You might be like, hey, Carly, I noticed that the MFI is 60% for this year. How does that work? Well, it's just different types of WA Grant to College Bound funding. So there's different amounts that they would get at a 60% MFI and at a 65% MFI, but still have the full College Bound commitment. It's just different amounts. Adds up to the same. And then the other ones are very, very common. Have no felony convictions as a part of the College Bound specific requirements. So to be eligible for CBS funding, the student must be at or below 65% MFI. Those key takeaways to remember about College Bound. And they must be awarded Washington College Grant and Passport to College first before awarding College Bound. So there's kind of an order, a hierarchy of what funds students receive first, and this is how it goes. So Washington College Grant, and then if they're Passport eligible, then the last would be CBS if they haven't met their commitment through Passport. And so this is just a reminder to make sure that students are awarded at the same time, so that you aren't just awarding Washington College Grant, but making sure that you're looking at your students through the checker, the CBS eligibility checker, and making sure that you are reviewing them for their eligibility frequently and awarding them as soon as possible, especially before the start of term. Likewise with Passport. Okay, not much to say here about Washington Bridge Grant. This is my sad slide. This may or may not be sad for you. However, we are sad that the WA Bridge Grant is eliminated beginning this upcoming year. We are in the final interim period, and we are reconciling all the last bridge awards for 2024-25, but this program was eliminated. This program was kind of an additional $500 for those that didn't qualify for college bound. So just a reminder, if you haven't seen this already, it will not be available for students for next year. On to Passport to College. So, what is it? It's part of the Passport to Careers, and it was created to increase high school completion for specific targeted groups. And it started out really targeting and helping completion rates for state foster youth. So, it provides eligible young people with pre-college and career support. So this is a piece of that. So those that are on campus that know that had passport support funds, there's a mentorship component and career and college support component to receiving this funding at institutions, I should say. Annual college scholarship for this upcoming year is going to be $2,000. Intensive support services while in college, and that's kind of what I was mentioning as far as someone that these students can go to and receive help in a variety of different ways that you can provide that support to students. So who does this serve? It serves youth who experience foster care. And so you can kind of see the different types of foster care listed here. And it's for students that were placed at any point after the age of 13. So it kind of coincides with the rule on the FAFSA as well. And then there's the unaccompanied homeless youth. So this was added into the program, and here's just kind of a brief definition of who those students are, and who might be eligible for passport. So a little bit more about who's enrolled into it. So state foster youth are automatically enrolled. Federal foster youth complete a consent form. Tribal foster youth complete a consent form and tribal verification form. The financial aid office determines eligibility for unaccompanied homeless youth. So if you're not familiar with our passport eligibility checker, there is a place where you can look up a student, find out if they are enrolled in the program, and also if you want to determine their unaccompanied homeless status, you can indicate that there. We also receive data from OSPI for high school seniors experiencing homelessness. So that is an excellent addition to receiving more information and identifying more students, which is also why the program has grown so much. There's just a lot more students that are being identified and that we know about and can serve. And so you may have noticed that too as we talk about passport in other spaces. So as you can see here, must be a resident of Washington, enroll in college prior to 22. That's the one I'll probably highlight that's very specific to passport. They do have to complete a FAFSA or WASFA. So again, it's not like the WA grant where they could just get, the Washington College grant through being a Washington College Grant Connect income eligible student. They do have to complete a financial aid application. And so there's some other common program requirements listed here. Moving on to what we call our adult pathways programs. And so this is the National Guard Grant. So what does it do? The National Guard Grant helps members of Washington National Guard and their dependents get an approved degree or certificate. So they do have a commitment that they have to make. They have to serve 1 year in exchange for each year of funding. So that's something that's really important to note. And the grant helps pay a portion of college costs not covered by other financial aid. So they must meet eligibility and service obligation, or grant will convert to a loan. So it's kind of similar to like a teach grant. And we'll talk a little bit about our teachers programs here. There's some similar programs like that. So a couple of things: a student must be a Washington National Guard service member in good standing. If dependent, there's some information here that they might have. Attend an accredited post-secondary institution, or a Washington institution that provides training under the Montgomery GI Bill, and they have to meet SAP requirements. Here's a little bit more about the awards. If you've seen these for this current academic year, you probably know they are the same. So they're going to be the same for 2025-26. And just a couple notes, there is a one-time $500 book allowance that they can receive, and that students that are eligible for NGG can also apply for federal tuition assistance. And they're encouraged to apply for both. So here gives you a good idea. At the 2-year community and technical college, that award amount could be $2,500 for a student. This is kind of a collaboration type program. So there's a process for the FAA and the program manager of the program to collaborate. There's going to be a certification piece. And the application typically opens around June 1st for these students. Next is the Washington Award for Vocational Excellence, so WAVE. Update from the legislative session, the WAVE funding will be suspended beginning the 2026-27 academic year, and so future funding is TBD. And of course, we'll let you know as soon as we know anything different. The Washington Award for Vocational Excellence recognizes graduating high school seniors and CTC students for outstanding performance in career and technical programs. So recipients will be awarded up to approximately $3,900 per year for up to 2 years, and it cannot exceed the cost of tuition. So here's a couple of the program requirements, and they're specific to whether you're a high school student applying or a community and technical college student applying for this program, and a little bit about what that looks like. The application and selection of this program is done with the co-administration of the Workforce Training and Education Coordinating Board, and still student fills out intent to enroll, and they have to use a scholarship award within 3 years. So that's something important to note. And then there's the FAA certification, so kind of similar to National Guard. There is some program collaboration to get in more information and to have it certified for the student to receive the scholarship. Dollar amount is limited by legislation, so you just always want to take a peek and see if you have any questions. We do have a WAVE section of our website, and so you can take a look and see kind of what that award amount is going to look like for a given year. And we have, I think, the current academic year 2000 or the future academic year 2025-26. I don't know. Some of you might have started summer one already, so it might be the current year for you, what the amount is. And of course, as with any program manual, you can find that on our FAA resources page. Here's a great email to contact in case you have any questions about this program. And we get to teachers programs. Okay, so we have a bunch of teachers programs, and when I was in a financial aid office, I love to think of these as another way to support students. So I'm not sure on your campuses which programs are available, but here's just a list of kind of all the options for future educators that they might be able to pursue to help get some additional help for their school. So a little bit more about that, and much more information is available at this link here, wasac.wa.gov/teachers. But it gives you kind of a breakdown of, is it conditional? Is it a grant? You can see most of these are conditional, and there's some sort of service component related to them. And some of them are higher, some of them are lower, and it depends on the program the student's in. So definitely just know that this is a resource available. I think lastly on our programs that we'll talk about is state work study. So shout out to any of our state work study coordinators that are on this webinar. It's financial aid for low and middle income students, and qualifying students get an approved job on or off campus to support their education. Huge thing about this is there's a contribution to the employer as far as a match in terms of supporting them for the salary for these students. And then for students, the huge benefit about it is just really building a resume, getting work experience, connections within your community, and potential, future job placement. Little more about the program requirements. Something that's unique to this one is that they have to be at least half-time in an eligible program. So that's something to know about for state work study. And then in terms of being eligible to work in the United States, other than that, pretty typical state requirements for to be able to be eligible. So let's see. I was going to take a peek and see if there's any questions about programs real quick before we move on. Okay, so we have a question. Do students have to be a legal Washington resident a year and a month prior to starting at any college to be eligible for Washington College Grant, or just prior to attending our college? So Michelle, that's a great question. And residency is a very complex topic. But what I would say is is that is a year prior. There is a year prior requirement, and we have more information on our website. But also, a really great way to look at it is the RCW, and I'd be happy to kind of send you some more information about that. But yes, in general, if you're looking at one of the options for residency, there is a need to have 1 year prior to starting your college. So we can talk about that more later too. Great. Let's see. Uh, oh, okay. Do students lose out on Washington College Grant if they attended a college before their legal residency date? So also, I want to point out, I think you all have a residency officer on your campus. They're the ones that are going to make a final determination of residency and really have the expertise. So we don't really make residency determinations here at WASAC, and we actually don't have a residency expert on staff at this time. And so we can point you to what is the statute or the law about residency, but we can't necessarily provide guidance in terms of like, this is how a student should be classified. So want to make sure you know that, in case you're like, why didn't they answer my question? Or why did they point me to this particular page? Michelle, it's kind of it depends type of question. So I'll reach out to you after this and I'll provide you a little bit more insight. Are CBS eligible passport students still ineligible to be awarded CPS if they're awarded passport? Great question. So it depends on if their college bound commitment is met. And so where we find that college bound commitment number is on the award chart. And so say for example, a student's attending a school and their total college bound commitment between Washington College Grant and college bound is $5,000. They received 3,000 in Washington College Grant and they got 2,000 in passport. Well, then they've met the commitment and the student wouldn't be eligible for college bound. But say the student only got 2,000 in Washington College Grant and 2,000 in passport, then they would still have room to receive the CBS because they haven't fully met the commitment yet. So that's kind of the answer to the question. It depends on if they've met their commitment. And I believe at most CTCs, usually they don't receive CBS in addition to passport, but there's always it depends situations depending on enrollment and things like that. If they received a high school equivalent, do they have to complete the equivalent program within a certain time frame in order to be eligible? Yes, we're going to, that's a great example. For example, those who don't complete a GED until they're 20 years old. So we actually are going to put some guidelines on this, and this is kind of a stay tuned type of situation where we will be letting you know more specifics about what GEDs or what high school equivalency is allowed, how long they're allowed to complete that high school equivalency and have it count. So basically more information to come, but thank you for that excellent question. Can students be awarded summer passport funds in addition to the 2,000? Yes, and I would invite one of my colleagues if I get this wrong, but yes, they can usually have an additional amount for summer. Thank you all. We'll keep moving forward. Okay, so we're going to enter a little bit away from the funding types that we have available and move into repayment. So there's two repayment policy options for our colleges to choose from. And you may wonder, when does that happen and how do we choose? Well, typically your director receives a participation agreement renewal or whatever we're doing for that particular year. I believe this is a renewal year. And your director is going to indicate which option you select. And that's the policy in which you have, oh, and I'm sorry, I have bridge on here, but I noticed where that's not going to be there anymore. But that's the policy that you are going to put in place when it comes to repayment for students. So the first option is if a student commences attendance in all classes for which they were enrolled and awarded for, they're considered to have earned their award. So as long as they enroll and attend at least one day in all the classes they're enrolled for, they've earned the award and nothing has to change after that. Option two, which I think most schools are using, if not all, using the institution's census date, which is the date by which the students' enrollments are basically frozen and upon which financial aid is dispersed. So say this is like 10th day of the term, you would make adjustments prior to the census date, but nothing after the census date. So for either option, prior to the start of the term, students going to owe 100% of what they've been awarded. If they don't show, they're a complete withdrawal. They have fraudulent aid. You adjust the award up if they increase their enrollment, and then you adjust the award down if they decrease enrollment, and they may owe back the difference if they've already been dispersed the funds. Option number one. So again, this is for those that have attended at least one course. For every course that they're enrolled in, they've earned the funds. So if they've earned 100%, in that case, you adjust the award up for increased enrollment, and you decrease it enroll you if you sorry, you adjust the award down if the student decreased enrollment and did not commence attendance in all classes for which their disbursement was made. So this is kind of the policy that has been going for a while with the state, but we opened up option two, the census date, this past year. And so another thing to know about this, you might be like, wow, they just get it even if they just attended one class. Well, the other thing where they get caught sometimes is in SAP, because if they're making all these reductions after later in the term, they would be caught in SAP eventually. So for option two, after the start of the term, they've earned 100% pre-census date, and you adjust the award up for any increased enrollment prior to census date. So one differentiation between these two policies is in the option one policy, you're increasing the aid no matter what throughout the term, but in census policy, you only have to increase aid up to the census date. And then you adjust it down for any decreased enrollment before the census date. There's a couple different repayment types. So institution to bill, this is where you'd indicate that we're going to go ahead and collect the funds from the student. And it does have to be collected or converted to in repayment by final interim submission. So that's something important to know about this type of repayment. For in repayment, this is the one most often that people select. The amount is collected from our contracted billing service. So we collect that from the student. Must be reported within 10 business days from the end of a term or date of withdrawal, whichever is easier. So there are ways to cancel repayments, but it's limited circumstances. So these include proof of updated last date of attendance, grade change, proof of a high school diploma. So maybe you canceled and put the student in repayment because you didn't think they earned a high school diploma, and that's why, but you actually have proof of that now. So things like that. And you have to enter a clear explanation for any cancellation of repayments. Institution must not accept payment for an in repayment account and then cancel the debt in the portal. So if you put them in repayment, we are tracking them, we're collecting from them. You don't want to be accepting the payment on the student's behalf. We want to make sure they're working through our services. And so that's really important. It creates inaccurate records and can be really essential for our accounting as well to make sure we're collecting that. So here's the information about repayment contacts. If you have questions about who to contact or who to send a student to if they owe a repayment, maybe they're wanting to make sure that that's okay so that they can re-register for school and they want to make sure it's paid. If they're not in collections and they're just working with our billing service, that's UAS or University Accounting Services, and you can see information here. They can always contact us with questions and talk to our repayment folks. That's mainly Nisha, Nisha Griffiths. She's wonderful. She's happy to help. And then if they are in collections, they'd be with FAMS or Financial Asset Management Systems. And you can see the contact information here. All right, and a little bit about satisfactory academic progress. So the good news is last year we aligned the state SAP policy with federal SAP policy, and that was an option for institutions. So institutions can choose to still follow the state SAP policy, which is outlined in the program manual. However, they can also align it with the federal SAP policy. So basically, they can do it on all one time. And I think most institutions were happy about this and want to just align their SAP policy all the same for both programs. But no, you have an option. You can continue to do state and federal separately or align them together. We're going to talk a little bit more about the portal in Seesaw. So this is your tool as FAAs to know a lot of information basically about state financial aid. And so your institutional administrator will set up your account and give any necessary permissions. Typically, this person is your financial aid director. However, you might have a couple different institutional administrators, but they are the ones that you would want to connect with if you do need any changes to your permissions. And for our institutional administrators, if anything isn't working correctly, for some reason you can't add a user permission, always let us know. We're happy to work on that and see what's going on there for you. And so you're going to log in to access the portal once you have a user account. There's basically three menus to assist you with different information. So we have the common menu, the seesaw menu, and the programs menu. The admin menu is typically available to our institutional administrators. It also might have your account information there. But the common menu is used to send secure messages to WASAC. So this is really important if you have PII information and you need to ask a really specific question about a student, please send that via secure message to us. And that comes right to our Washington College Grant inbox or the inbox that you select. You'll see that there's different selections. You can access the repayment checker and the archive in this menu, and you can access your account. Next is Seesaw. So for all of those that are working with student information, doing interim reporting, this is a huge menu for you. And what it stands for is the CBS WCG Award Warehouse, in case you ever wondered why it's called Seesaw. And so you can use this menu to access student records, complete the interim report, request funds, upload files of your students. It's a really important and commonly used menu. I know many of you are in there right now doing final interims, so thank you for that. And then your program menu is more specific to the program. So you can use this to access specific programs and tools associated with those programs. So for example, we have College Bound, and you can access the College Bound eligibility checker. So if you're looking for something specific, like the WASFA, for example, you need to access WASFA applications or you need to correct a WASFA application. This would be under the program menu. So that's something that you'll want to know about as well. So a little bit about resources. If you need anything, a lot of our tools, our information, our previous guidance, webinars, everything is on this FAA resources page. If you think there's a resource that you would love to have on this page that we have missed, let us know. We'd love to be able to provide anything and any tool that helps you better do your job and really makes it easier to award state funding. So let us know. And then we're here to help you. For those that are not familiar, you can send all your questions to us at WCG, even though it says Washington College Grant. If you have any questions, just send it to us there, and we can help you if it's something else specific for a specific program, maybe National Guard grant. They have a specific email. But if you're working with any of our Washington College Grant, College Bound students, you can send it to WCG, and we're happy to help you there. And just another reminder about PII information, please do send that through secure messaging in the portal. All right, before I welcome Kelly here, I'm gonna look and see if we have any other questions that I can help address, and then we're gonna welcome our friend Kelly. Can there be a demo or specification about where the guidance is with how to use a CSV upload process in the WASAC portal for the CTCs when updating students? Great question. So I'm not sure if you're wondering about the whole process in terms of how you develop that file um, through CTC link and then upload it through WASAC. We do talk a little bit about the upload process in our interim webinars, but if there's something else specific that we can do, please do shoot us an email and I'll make sure I think about a tool available for you. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So that part, so the CTC link part, I'll let Kelly kind of talk about that too. If there's more specific on how to create a file, I'm pretty sure there is. But let us know any other tools you want. We're happy to help. Check repayment. Please repeat the area of WASAC portal to check repayment status. Oh yeah, let me go ahead and go back there for you. Repayment checker is going to be in the common menu here. So if you're looking for the repayment checker, you can throw a list of your students' IDs in the repayment checker to check any student that might be in repayment. Thanks for asking. Is it required for all NGG students to get the book allocation? I don't think it's required. I actually think it's if they have need. And I'm not actually specifically know how they get that book allowance. I just know from when I was a financial aid administrator in an office, sometimes they got it and sometimes they didn't. So I think there's a need component. And so I don't know that it's a requirement. Thank you all. So I want to go ahead and invite my colleague Kelly on here to go through some more of the specific information. Kelly, thank you so much again for being here. I'm just going to give you some control for here and let you go.
Thank you, Carly. Hi, everybody. Let's see if I can make this go. Yay, I made it work. Okay, thanks for that. If you have joined late, just as a reminder, I'm Kelly Forsberg. I'm the CTC Link Financial Aid Trainer here at the State Board of Community and Technical Colleges. And we're going to go over just some general Washington College Grant, College Bound Scholarship, or state aid processing as it pertains to CTC Link. We're going until about 11:30 this morning, and we are going to leave some time for Q&A, but here we go. I'm still figuring out how to work the queue. Okay, here we go. So this morning's objectives after completing the CTC Link training portion, you should be able to understand how and why you may need to recalculate Washington College Grant eligibility and batch after awarding. We're also going to go through some eligibility view page examples as well. We're going to understand how to run the Washington College Grant archive process in CTC Link. So outbounding a list from CTC Link, producing that list, and then sending it to Seesaw, and then inbounding the WASAC response to CTC Link. And you should be able to understand what queries to run and review after running the Washington College Grant archive process. Understand what queries to run and review after awarding and before dispersing. And my mouse stopped working. There we go. Okay, and understand how to run the CBS outbound and inbound process through WASAC eligibility checker. And understand the available queries to continually review throughout the aid year as part of the reconciliation process, so in between your interim reporting. So we'll first go through reading the Washington College Grant and College Bound Scholarship eligibility view pages in CTC Link. So for those of you that are newer to financial aid, this should be pretty handy for you, although I'm sure you're getting trial by fire reviewing as you go. But just a quick overview, this is going to occur in the financial aid menu under CTC Custom, CTC Interfaces, Washington College Grant, Washington College Grant Eligibility View, and then Washington College Grant Eligibility View and Archive Data. This is specifically for a student who is not eligible. And so this is a scrubbed student from our training environment, so the name and all the other identification has been scrubbed, not live PII. But what we're looking at are these first two tabs here, and specifically what we're looking at on this first tab is the Washington College Grant Eligibility Data. And we're looking at the effective date. Notice that there are two rows here. So at the time this information came in, so like when the ICERs and the WASFAs are loaded into CTC Link, there should be a process where it is populating this data into these pages using the ICER job set. So when the ICER job set runs overnight, you've loaded your WASFAs, you've loaded your ICERs, that will come in and then run an automatic process overnight, thereby populating the page you're seeing here on the screen. Once that information is loaded, you'll see this effective date, and you can see here that the eligible is highlighted in yellow to say no, and there is a red annotation box on the message area saying not eligible due to no remaining Washington College Grant quarters. So that's really specifically what you're looking for is, are they eligible, yes or no? And you can see here that's highlighted, it just plainly says no. When we go on to the next slide, oh, also a tip to notice your effective dates too. Effective dates are going to be really important. On another tip, this is the same student, same page, but on a different tab, you want to be able to review both available tabs. So you're looking at, okay, how many quarters have they used? Or is there any other information I can glean from the Washington College Grant Archive Data tab? So still in the same navigation on the different tab here, we can see that the remaining Washington College Grant quarters are 0. And you can see that there's a file import in the comment area here. To the right side of your screen where it says here's the file name. It was titled import and it was run on 3/14. Still the same student, and we're looking at a student eligible example, and we can see here that it says tip, use your include history button. So on the bottom of the screen, you should be able to choose include history, and that will display both of the rows. So at one point in time on 3/14/2025, they were eligible. So it says eligible, yes, here's their MFI, here's their award amount, and all conditions have been met. So at some point in time, when this data was loaded, when that ICE or job set process came in, ran the process overnight, populated this page on here. It said, yes, they're eligible. Then the archive process was run on that batch of students. And then a new row was inserted on the same day saying now they're not eligible. So timing is super important when you're importing this data. So as soon as you're getting all of these, all of these things loaded up, it's really important to run the archive process on each population of student that is loaded with a WASFA or an ICER overnight. All right, we're going to look at a college-bound scholarship eligibility student, and this is for a student who's not eligible. Tip, you're looking for okay to award or okay to pay. It should say yes. If it says no, then you shouldn't be awarding it. So if it does say okay to award yes, but it says okay to pay no, you can offer it to them, but they still have to meet conditions for the program. So like when you're going to the award page, for example, you have those actions for the award when you're inserting a row to award. If you're choosing a B to offer accept, that's when they're okay to pay and okay to award. If they are okay to award yes, but okay to pay no, you can put it in an O status. So you're offering it to the student, but you still want to get the messaging out to the student of like, hey, you still need to complete your requirements with WASAC or with OSPI. I think there's only like a couple of institutions that put it in an offered status too when it's okay to pay equaling no, but okay to award yes. So just sort of some options you have when you're awarding. The navigation for this page is in financial aids, CTC custom, CTC interfaces, college-bound scholarship, and college-bound eligibility view. And you can see, a lot of information on here that are they eligible for Washington College Grant, or here's the award amount, but really what you're looking for college-bound scholarship is that okay to award and okay to pay. All right, next we're going to move into the Washington College Grant archive process and recalculating Washington College Grant eligibility. So just some tips to consider. Timing is super important. So WASAC updates the Washington College Grant archive data once annually in or around August. And that's for like all the colleges that have been reporting interim, getting all of their, usage reported. And so in August, that's when that is reported. So when you think about how you are doing your archive process, if you're running your archive process for students back in the previous example we saw, which was in March, right? A couple of months have gone by, new award year is starting. Okay, now we've got some archive data that's been really updated in August. You want to rerun that process. So just some considerations to think of on your awarding cycles as it pertains to CTC Link. Run and rerun archive checks on transfer students. So maybe they've attended another institution and now they're coming to you effective summer or effective fall. You want to rerun archive checks prior to disbursements. So that's like just a quick double check of like, okay, we awarded them back in April, or for trailer institutions, we've awarded them in, say, July. Now that archive process has updated in August, we're getting ready to disperse for fall. You want to rerun that archive check just to be doubly sure on your no or remaining low QER students. That's quarters of eligibility remaining. You want to rerun archive checks in late August and then follow up with those student awards for students that have no or low remaining QER. Okay, so Washington College Grant eligibility, this is kind of what's going on behind the scenes. So you'll see this screenshot. This is your process monitor. So whomever is responsible for your service accounts or your job sets, you're going to come into this process monitor and you're going to dig into this process monitor link. It'll open up this little pagelet and saying, these are all the processes that run. The ones that are highlighted and where the red arrows are pointing to on the screen, this is for your SNG process and your SNG eligibility calculation process. And so what's happening here is this is running overnight. It's doing a population update on the students that are basically reporting, yes, I have Washington residency from their ICERs and also from their WASFAs. It's populating that data into the eligibility view page. And this is happening on a nightly basis, excluding weekends. Okay, so Washington College Grant Eligibility Archive, understanding who does what and when. So before packaging and especially before disbursement, the manual Washington College Grant Archive process needs to be run. Manual as in it's not done by your job set. So you're going to have to go into these pages in the navigation of financial aid, CTC custom, CTC interfaces, Washington College Grant, and then Washington College Grant Archive outbound. And you're just running some quick little parameters here and you're checking that box of select eligible only students. And then you are going to go check into your process monitor and then go to your message text, and you should have some information in there that you will need to then download into a file, and then you're sending that to the Washington Student Achievement Council for that archive process. Here's a frequently asked question on managing Washington College Grant eligibility and this archive process. How do I find students who are not Washington College Grant eligible? Like, let's say you get that response back. You want to run this query called CTCFA SNG, that's formerly State Need Grant, but it's Washington College Grant, all records. So you are going to filter the query results to find students who are not eligible due to no remaining Washington College Grant eligibility and or repayment status or any other information you're going to see here in this message that's highlighted in red on the screenshot here on your screen. It's in column, I have to really dig in. It's AA. Sorry, I had to like look with my eyes that I need glasses. So you'll see in the message, it's not eligible due to repayment status, not a legal resident based on residency date. So that would be, double checking with your residency official at the admissions office. They don't have need, and other varying reasons that you'll see there. And you can quickly sort and filter to this eligible column saying, nope, they're not eligible, so I don't need to look at these. Maybe they were eligible last year and they're not now, and you kind of want to run to ground like what's going on with that one. All right, some more frequently asked questions. How do I find students who have low or no quarters of eligibility remaining? You can run the query QCS, FA, SAP, Max T, state aid eligible. And you're going to review results to find students who have low QER. So basically, like when you're checking this and let's say you're doing some awarding now in June and you're like, oh, I see this student only has, just a little bit of eligibility remaining. Again, you want to run it again after August just to make sure that what's reported in your final interim isn't making them ineligible for awards that you may have placed on for the 25-26 aid year. All right, and recalculating Washington College Grant eligibility, frequently asked questions continued. How do I recalculate students when MFI or award amounts change after awarding has begun? This is a question that, let's just say, for example, you have been awarding using the 24-25 amounts. Let's say you want to remain competitive with four-year institutions who are putting out their aid offers as early as like December, January, February. They have decision day going on in like April and May, right? And if you're thinking, well, I haven't updated my tables yet, the legislature hasn't finalized the budget, I don't know what the amounts are yet. So we're just going to put 24-25 amounts out there as an offer, right? As a tentative offer. You may have done that earlier in the year. I don't know any CTCs who have done that, but just considering that other institutions out there are putting their award letters out there pretty early, you also want to put yours out there early too. You may have made the decision of putting 24-25 amounts for the 25-26 aid year. If you have done that, this will require a recalculation, which starts with updating your MFI tables and your award amounts in the SACR pages. This would be the Washington College Grant and College Bound Scholarship Eligibility tables. And then you want to rerun that Washington College Grant recalculation process. So on or about, I think it was the 21st of May, we put out some guidance on a weekly-ish bulletin that said, hey, go and update your tables. So you all should have had an opportunity to do that by now. That's going to be in the SACR pages, product related, financial aid, CTC Custom, CTC Interfaces, Washington College Grant, Washington College Grant Setup, and College Bound Setup. And so basically you're just updating these tables. Again, this is usually performed during a year rollover, but we did have a session where the legislative session didn't end until like near the end of May. So that wasn't able to be performed during the year rollover. But now that you have that information, you should be updating that, and that should already be done for the 2026 aid year. All right, in the event you do need to run a recalculation process. So after those eligibility tables have been run, you can do an ad hoc Washington College Grant POP update and Washington College Grant eligibility update and do an optional lock batch process. This is done in the financial aid menu, CTC Custom, CTC Interfaces, Washington College Grant, Washington College Grant Population Update, and the Calculate Washington College Grant Eligibility menus. And so when you're in here, you're just going to make sure that you're selecting PS query. Here's your query name. You have edit prompts you need to define, which is usually just your institution and the aid year. And then also your parameters, which is going to include your academic institution and your aid year. And then there's a recalculate button here. So if you have any awards to update, you can do that recalculate now that those MFI tables have been updated. And then you run it. You do have the option to lock that batch. So once you've done a recalculation and you want to lock down that Washington College Grant and College Bound Scholarship eligibility view page, that's the step that you can do that. It is optional. It's in our Washington College Grant Business Processing Guide. Some colleges don't use it. They will just leave it open where, okay, we're not going to lock it. Maybe the student is doing a new ICER. I need to check for conflicting information. Those are some of sort of the examples that you would not want to lock it, because once you've made that determination, you're locking it at that point in time. But again, if the student is submitting another ICER and now or a WASFA, and you've got conflicting info to look at, you're locking it and awarding it at the time they were eligible and eligible for the disbursement. Things may change though, and you want to insert a new row. Of course, you can always select that calculate button on the Washington College Grant and College Bound Scholarship eligibility view pages to say, okay, now we're rechecking that calculate eligibility. So you don't have to lock it. It is an optional process. I do see a question in the chat, so I'll address that quickly before we move into CBS. Let's see. Will the rerun of eligibility checks update students with their Washington College Grant eligibility and archive page showing as lock eligibility override box checked? If not, is there a way to uncheck all the boxes so they will update? Good question. Will the rerun of eligibility checks update students with... So basically, Stephanie, you've locked all students already and you're running a recalc. Is there a way to uncheck it? Is that what you're asking? I just want to make sure I got the question right. Right. Okay. Got it. So if you have those pages already locked because you've run that lock page down already and you want to recalculate, I might submit a ticket to State Board just to make sure that we are talking about the same thing. I don't want to give like a blank guidance on that. I do see Connie on the line as well, so maybe she can chime in, but good question. Let me give it a think and then I'll check with Connie and see if we can't answer your question at the end of the session. But my first inclination is to say, please submit a ticket. 70 says we had a bunch of students calc at the 65%, but show the 60% award amounts, and then looking at their info, they should have calced at 60%. Got it. Yeah, that would require a recalc. And if they're already locked, I'm pretty certain that's going to require a ticket so they can do a pop update to get that corrected for you. I will double check and follow up though for sure. You are welcome. Okay, I'm not sure how to move those questions to answered, so any of the moderators on the line, or we can still leave it up to you. Okay, good questions. So we're going to move on to College Bound Scholarship Eligibility Checker. And this is the process in CTC Link. So just some tips to consider. Timing for College Bound Scholarship is also super important. So the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, or OSPI, they receive graduation information from May until August. Take into consideration students that may have late graduation. Maybe they're doing summer school. They're not receiving that information until later in the year. Recalculations may be required. So just some considerations to think about. You want to run and rerun the eligibility checker on students who graduate late. You want to rerun eligibility checks prior to disbursements. So if you're dispersing for summer, run it right before you do disbursements. And then, of course, if you're a trailer institution and you're dispersing for fall, you want to rerun it again prior to disbursements for fall. You want to rerun eligibility checks in late August as well, following that archive data. Maybe they ran out of Washington College Grant eligibility and therefore would no longer be eligible for College Bound Scholarship. So you want to rerun eligibility checks in late August and follow up with student awards if necessary. Okie dokie. So understanding who does what and when. So before packaging and especially before disbursement, the manual CBS eligibility checker process needs to be run. So this is for basically depending on how often you're loading ICERs, how often you are running those checks. This process needs to be updated. So you're grabbing a population of students from this process in the financial aid menu under CTC Custom, CTC Interfaces, College Bound Scholarship, and college bound outbound process. And what you're doing is you're just defining a couple of parameters on this page, running the process, and it's going to generate a list of students that you will then run through the download page, and it will give you just basically a long list of SSNs in a notepad document, which you will then run through the WASAC secure portal. Alrighty, so when you receive the response back, you're going to load the eligibility checker results, and then you're going to run the process. And that's done in financial aid. So this is the inbound step. So you're taking your financial aid CTC custom, CTC interfaces, college bound scholarship, and your college bound inbound process. And you're going to take that CSV file and you're going to attach it using an external file selection tool. So in this menu, you're defining external file, taking that attached file, which you'll see highlighted here in yellow, and you're selecting that upload file button to the right, and that's when it's uploaded, the red arrow, it will display the attached file results here on that row. This is the specific file mapping that you'll use for that. That's for college bound inbound. You're going to define a couple of parameters down at the bottom, which would be your academic institution and your aid year, and then you're selecting that run button. And when you run this process, it's populating data in the college bound scholarship eligibility view page. All right. Any questions on that process? I don't see anything yet. I do see, is it a hand up that I see? I think it's from two yet, maybe not. Okay, hand up, hand down. No worries. If you do have questions, just feel free and plug them in the chat and we'll address them as we go, or you can save them for the end as well. If you need me to slow down, please let me know too, because I think we do have time. We're going till 11:30 today. We're at 11:04, and I think I'm whipping through things pretty quick here. Okay, so next we're going to move into queries to run continually as part of the process and as part of reconciliation. So this is a long list of queries that you're going to find in your Washington College Grant and College Bound Scholarship Business Processing Guide, and that is on our CTC Link Reference Center. You want to please always refer to this guide as you are working the processing steps for the state aid programs. And all of these queries will kind of give you, updates on what you need to do. You do need to think about the timing of when you're going to be using these queries. Many of you are very familiar with running your state programs, working with WASAC, working with the secure portal. If you're newer to this, please take some time to read that guide and dive into the available queries. I'm just going to go over a couple of them. So the first one on the list, this lists college bound scholarship students and their Washington College Grant amounts, should they have them by term. Question from Misty. What kind of processing queries exist for processing passport to college? Good question. We don't really have anything specific for passport, and I do believe when you get your passport to college, it's like a roster you're getting in the seesaw area. That's a pretty manual process, passport to college. Connie's on the line. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but my current knowledge on that is there's no real existing queries for processing passport. I know many of the institutions may have a large population of passport students, and you're finding that the manual process is quite large there. Um, how it works though is you're getting that roster, you're going on and you're manually plugging in those scholarships for those students. You can use queries that will show you, who's already been awarded basically out by item type. So there's specific queries. I think it's awarded by item type. So you can use the wild card, which is the percent side sign, awarded underscore item underscore type, awarded by item type. And then you can look at your passport to college item type to see, okay, who actually has been awarded. Oh, I got that student, or here's a new student on my roster, and you need to catch that one too. No real specific process of like uploading and downloading or inbounding and outbounding though, as it is with Washington College Grant or College Bound Scholarship. Passport is kind of its own situation. Good question though. Thanks for asking it. With the query name, the second query on the list here, this is the CTC FA College Bound Scholarship SMG not awarded. So this would identify students who have Washington College Grant and College Bound Scholarship eligibility. But they have a processing status of greater than applied. So that means they have a WASFA or ICER on file. They have enrollment in the prompted term, but they don't have an item type for Washington College Grant or College Bound Scholarship in an offered status greater than 0. So basically, this is a cleanup query of like, okay, I'm getting ready to put out my award offers. These students are eligible, but they're not awarded. Oops, I need to get this out there ASAP so that it picks up in the award letter process. Another query too, CTC FA state need grant eligible not packaged. This would identify Washington College Grant eligible students who already have been packaged other aid, but they don't have that Washington College Grant item type. It'll help identify students who have less than a full term of Washington College Grant eligibility remaining so that they are eliminated from auto packaging. So if you are using the auto packaging like retrieve button and you're seeing, oh, they're not packaging on there, you can use that query to identify those students. There's also an SNG or Washington College Grant recalc students query. This would identify students who have a Washington College Grant or CBS item type regardless of the dollar amount, and they have an aid processing of status greater than applied, and it will display recalculated amount from the eligibility page. Question on the chat. Seattle Colleges changed to a header this year from trailers. So for the student with the residency date is July to August 2024. On the Washington College Grant eligibility and archive data, it shows that the student is ineligible due to residency date. Does it mean the student is ineligible for Washington College Grant for summer 2025? If they are a Washington resident on July or August 2025, will they qualify for Washington College Grant for summer 2025? How do we update the Washington College Grant eligibility after the student becomes a Washington resident? Good question. So on that Washington College Grant eligibility view page, you can just hit recalculate or calculate. If they're still showing ineligible, that tells me that it's pulling data from the residency page over in the student records area. So you need to partner up with your enrollment services department or your student records department to make sure that that effective date for their residency is updated. Because if that's not updated after you hit the calculate button and it still shows they're ineligible, but you're, counting the months and you're like, they should be eligible, that's probably a conversation you should have with your student records folks. Good question. That's something that happens often. All right, just a few of the remaining queries on here. We're down at the third from the bottom up. CTC FA SNG Award Residence Descript is select students who've been awarded Washington College Grant and have discrepant data on the residency status between the ICER and the biodemo. So usually like they'll have that residency status checklist on there and you want to kind of do like a preemptive cleanup or a quick sweep to identify those students so that those checklists aren't just sitting there outstanding. So if you're looking to get aid offers out there in a timely manner, you want to make sure that that's being kind of cleaned up ahead of time so that your aid offers go out the door as accurate as possible. That's one way you can do that, is just to run that cleanup query, find out who those students are, and then resolve those residency status checklists kind of on the back end. So that's an option for you there. Second to the last query is the CTC FA CBS eligible not package. So this would be a query intended to be run after packaging, and this identifies college-bound scholarship eligible students who do not have a college-bound scholarship FA item type with an offered amount greater than 0. So this will help identify students who were not packaged because they have limited terms of eligibility remaining. So you're running this as just a basic cleanup sweep. So let's say you run mass packaging for an example, right? And you've turned off self-service, you're doing all this cleanup work in the background. You can run that query to say, oh, okay, they still have eligibility, but they may not have much. We need to get that award out there so that when you turn self-service back on, those students show as, having all of the aid that they are eligible to receive. Last query on the list here, this is the FA SMG all records. That's the one I shared earlier. This query is intended to be run after loading the archive response file. And this would basically filter out the students who are not eligible due to no remaining Washington College grant or due to repayment status. So again, these are just all like preemptive cleanup queries as you're going through the packaging and awarding and reviewing process. All right, so our outcomes, understand how to read the Washington College Grant and College Bound Scholarship eligibility view pages, understand how and why you may need to recalculate Washington College Grant eligibility in batch after awarding. Again, we did hear in the chat that if you already have locked eligibility and you see that there's some MFI data you maybe need to clean up, please submit a ticket with our help desk here at State Board, and we can help you work through that. Outcomes should be also understand how to run the Washington College Grant Archive process. That would be outbounding a list from CTC Link to WASAC and then inbounding that response into CTC Link using the upload page. Understand what queries to run and review after running the Washington College Grant Archive process, and then understand what queries to run and review after awarding and before dispersing. And then also understand how to run the CBS outbound and inbound process through WASEC's eligibility checker. And then finally, understand the available queries to continually review throughout the aid year as part of the reconciliation process, thinking specifically about quarters who have, or students who have low quarters of eligibility remaining, or students who have dwindling eligibility. So you want to monitor those throughout the aid year. All right, that is it for the CTC steps. Congrats, you have completed the CTC, Washington College Grant and CBS processing training, your state aid training. Please review any of the videos and additional resources in the CTC Link Reference Center, including the Washington College Grant and CBS processing guide. And thanks for hanging through us today. I'm going to pass it back over to Gabi for a short survey notification. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate you so much. Let's see, I'm gonna stop remote control. All right. So just a little bit, we have a short survey that'll pop up after this presentation. Let us know how we did, what you'd like to see for the future, and just know that your feedback is so important to us. We do review all the survey results and make sure that we fine tune our training and make sure that we include any trainings throughout the year that would be helpful for you. And other than that, we definitely have some time still. If people do have questions, you can feel free to put those in the Q&A. But here's some contact information. If you do have other questions and would like to follow up with us, again, greatly appreciate Kelly being here and kind of giving us a glimpse of the CTC Link side of things. It's so interesting for me to learn about this because I don't know as much about CTC Link. So I really enjoy kind of seeing the other side of the process for you. And so I can help understand and help with your questions. So I do see, okay, I think we talked about the Seattle colleges question, so I think we're good there. I'll just allow some space, a couple minutes or so to allow people to put in any other questions that they have. And then we'll end a little bit early today. But again, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here, see if we have some other questions. And appreciate you all for taking the time in these couple busy weeks to be with us and to learn more about different programs. But I see nothing in the Q&A, so I think we're good, Kelly. Again, thank you all. We're really glad you're here and hope to see you in another session, and hope to hear from you on our survey. Have a great day.
Thanks, Carly. Thank you so much for the partnership, and thanks everyone at the colleges. We'll see you at other trainings. Bye.